Hi, good day. So, before we jump into the topic that we will discuss today, I hope you get a gist of what we will be tackling and discussing throughout this presentation. But before that, let me introduce myself. My name is Jun Barrientos Tibo, and I'm from St. Jude College, Manila, 3BSBA Marketing Management, together with my members, Mark Kevin Quintana and Elizabeth Molina. So, we are assigned to discuss the classification of layout that includes process and product layout under BAM 199, Operations Management, and TQM under Professor Evelyn T. Exclamador. So, we've looked into the best code that we can certainly use on this presentation. So, we found this great code, which is Strategic Layouts, Foundations of Operational Efficiency and Quality Excellence in Modern Production System. So as we go along, we would be able to know the main or the basic classifications of layout and how it affects or what are the importance of it and how it helps the operational efficiency and of course the quality excellence in terms of the production process. But first, since this is titled Have You Ever Wondered How? As you can see there, this person is thinking and wondering how does this supermarket was able to plan and execute having the kind of arrangement of these items. So even you, if you were in a grocery store and you're trying to find the things you needed to buy, yet you had been thinking about how these establishments and supermarkets manage to arrange everything for the ease of the consumers. So with this or today, we would be able to delve into the topic and see how it works and why is it very needed or what are the importance of it. So, but then this specific process or this thing is being called as facility layout. Well, to let you know, facility layout it is classified as a layout where items and products are arranged to ease the flow of consumers inside the establishment. And this is to have an efficient flow of consumers and to lessen the foot traffic for consumers and handling of goods or needs in the manufacturing. Same goes with this person. He doesn't need to go specific into those shelves that he doesn't really need to get something from it. Just he goes directly to the shelf wherein he needs to buy that item. But then at the end of this presentation or this lesson, of course, the learners should be able to differentiate the classifications of layouts, design a product and process layout at the end of everything. So we'll go ahead and discuss how the product layout is being done or what are the examples of it and maybe more information or details about it. But to start with, layout in general terms, it refers to the configuration of departments, work centers, and equipment with particular emphasis on movement, like for customer and or the materials itself through the entire system. It answers the question on how the equipment, machinery, and people will be arranged to make production process as efficient as possible. But just like in the one that's showing on the photos, um, there is specific station and people doing that specific process, and it helps to have the manufacturing or production very organized and efficient. Just like also in this photo, and you can see an assembly line in a specific fast food chain. There is a place wherein they need to prepare the burgers, and then there's a place wherein they can do this the pasta and all of those kind of stuff. But what are the importance of having the layout, or why is it came that layout designs are very important? Well, of course, they require substantial investments of money and effort, and they involve long-term commitments, which makes mistakes difficult to overcome. Lastly, of course, significant impact on the cost and efficiency of operations. whatever machine, whatever number of employees or staff that you might have in terms of the layout and the design that you've set for a specific manufacturing or production or operation would certainly impact the efficiency of everything. So, what are the objectives of the layout designs? Of course, the main objective is to facilitate a very smooth flow of work or material, even the information through the system. So, for example, a good example is if you will be making a cake in a cake factory where either it has different station that has a smooth flow from cutting the cakes, putting fillings, and then finishing touches, and then boxing or yeah, boxing or shipping. Well, it supports by the objective that it needs to be facilitate the product or service quality, of course, the use workers and space efficiently, avoid bottlenecks, minimize material handling costs, eliminate unnecessary movement of workers or material, and minimize production time or customer service time, and of course, design for safety. So, designs gives this kind of objectives at the end of every layout that they would be looking into minimizing the production time, making sure that the layout is safely processing the products at the same time safe for the employees or the staff. At the same time, of course, they would like to make sure that the space is efficiently used and most specifically the skill of the workers is properly used whenever they station it in one specific station to another. And at the same time, at the end of the day, it's the product or the service quality they're looking into. So we'll talk about the first classification of layout. So that's the product layout. In general terms, or in the definition, it is a layout that uses standardized processing operation to achieve smooth, rapid, high volume flow. And this is often used for repetitive processing or repetitive or continuous steps or processes wherein high volume of standardized goods is produced efficiently by people or by equipment or departments arranged in a series of workstation, a production or assembly line as in a manufacturing environment. One good example is um, medicine manufacturers of medicine or manufacturers of food like biscuits or manufacturer of papers. So those kind of things, they either have an employer or staff on each specific station to make sure the quality of the product, or they have a specific machinery or equipment that they're using to have a very smooth flow of the transition from one phase to another. For example, the paper, compiling it and then putting a paste onto the top into it so that it will be one piece only, and then putting it in a plastic and then for packaging. So that's how the product layout is. And let's look into the three examples that we have here. So first is the raw materials. This is the same example that I had, wherein there is a stations or there are stations until it reaches the finished item, wherein there's a specific labor or a machine that will be doing towards to the product to reach the finished items or the last process or the last look of the item. Next is another example is whenever you are in a typical cafeteria or in you'll get your tray and silver, or in you got of course your spoon, fork, and knife, and then on the first face you'll see the desserts, and then whenever you order for desserts you'll get your salads and then your main course, and then you'll get your potato and vegetable, you'll have your bread and rolls, and then beverage and cashier. Same goes with a good example that we are familiar with is whenever you've eaten in Subaru. So you'll be seeing a line that you'll be standing in or you'll be falling in, and then at the start, of course, you'll get your tray. You'll see you'll see the pizza there. You'll need to choose whatever pizza you'll get, whatever slice you would like to get, and then the next part will be the pasta and then the sauce. So you need to choose whatever sauce you would like to have in that pasta, and then of course you'll have next into that is bread or rolls. After the bread and rolls, you'll have your salad, And then after the salad, some desserts. After the dessert, you'll have your beverage, and then beverage after that, it's the cashier. That includes, of course, the silver, which is a spoon, fork, and the knives. Another good example is whenever a candy factory is doing or producing candies. First, of course, they combine the ingredients, they whip the ingredients, and then they add the sugar, including the coloring. They have it molded. After that, they put some details into it if it's needed, and then at the latter part, of course, the wrapping and the shipping that's being done by the machine. So that's a concrete or straight or smooth flow of a process from raw ingredients until it's being delivered as a complete or finished item or product. But what are the good advantages or what are the advantages of having or using the product layout or utilizing product layout? Of course, it gives you a higher rate of output because it's continuous, right? It gives you just like what shows on the video, or in it, it manufactures bottled of medicine or bottled jars that has like jams or what. So it gives you higher rate of volume or outputs in terms of the product. Low unit cost because um, it gives you lower amount for you to pay into specific for you to reach a specific high volume of outputs or high volume of products. Labor specialization, they would be able to know and specialize a specific process since they are stationed on one specific location. Let's say, for example, this employee will be stationed only for um, this, not disintegrating. Let's say, for example, it's a medicine. They will need to, separate the medicines that being manufactured, that's being on the production. So they need to make sure that it's properly set. So they would certainly be specialized into that kind of skills throughout every day. That's the same thing that you'll be doing. Low material handling cost per unit, and of course, high utilization of labor and equipment. However, the disadvantage, or on the other hand, the disadvantage of this is it creates dull and repetitive jobs, meaning to say, those people who's been doing the same thing every day will be stationed into that, keep on checking on that specific station or the process that was assigned to them. And of course, poorly skilled workers may not be able to maintain equipment or quality of the output. They won't be able to be moved from one station or one area to another since they are specializing on that specific place. Lastly, is fairly inflexible to change in volume, product or process design. So meaning to say, if the entire process is set for them to produce 1,000 products in a day, it would certainly take time for them to increase the volume to make sure that there will be changes in terms of number of people, in terms of setting the equipment or adding additional equipment in terms of the process or in terms of the layout. So that's much more for the product layout. So we'll jump into the next classification, which is the process layout. So process layout actually just a comparison to product layout. These are layouts that can handle varied processing requirements, wherein there are used for intermittent processing or a discontinuous workflow. This is applicable to job shop, batch processing, and these are occasionally called as functional layouts because the process is designed such that operations of similar nature or functions are grouped together. A good example of this is um, a manufacturing environment in a machine shop. Of course, there is a specific place where in it there is a grinding location or a drilling station, and so on and so forth. Just like another example is in the hospital, you have your radiology, and then you move to laboratory. There is a specific place where you have your surgery and recovery, even your physical therapy, and so on. And of course, this illustrates departmental arrangement or typical for process layout, just like what I've said for the clinics or the hospital itself. Even in universities or college, you'll have your separate department for enrollment, which is the registrar. For payments, that would be the finance department. Any student concerns under student services, and of course you have your faculty and all of those kind of stuff. And aside from the hospitals, colleges, and universities, this is also common in service environments such as the banks, of course, the auto repair shops, airlines, and lastly, the public libraries. But then, with process layout, what are the advantages that we can certainly look into it? Of course, it can handle a variety of processing requirements and not particularly vulnerable to equipment failures because again they focus on one specific department only. Just for example, the laboratory, they would only focus on the laboratory itself, and it has a general purpose. Equipment is often less costly and easier and less costly to maintain. At the same time, it is possible to use individual incentive system in terms of the advantages. However, on the other hand, or the disadvantage of it is in process inventories can be high because you need to go into different departments for you to be able to know the inventory. And then your next is routing and scheduling post continual challenges. Equipment utilizations rates are low. And then of course material handling is slow and inefficient because it goes into a different location, or it's not a complete direct one line process, so it varies. So let's say you'll do on the laboratory, after that you go into a different department, like you'll go to the recovery section, and then once you're done with the recovery you'll move to another station, those kind of stuff. At the same time, reduced spans of supervision, special attention is necessary for each product or customer. And of course, accounting, inventory control, and purchasing are more involved in terms of the process. So those are the advantages and the disadvantages of the process layout. Of course, I hope you did something, learn from this presentation. That's much more on those two main classifications of layouts. I We do really appreciate you listening into the entire presentation. So again, my name is June, and as the leader of the group, I was the one who created this presentation and the presenter. I have my member Mark, who is the researcher and video creator and artist, and I have Elizabeth, who submitted the article and the research, including the video and illustration. So again, always minded, or always keep in mind that first you think and then you learn and then you apply with the use of your mind, soul, and your, of course, your body. So again, my name is June, and thank you for listening, and have a great day.